Hello, welcome to the Manic Pixie Dream Vlog. I'm your host, Caroline Georges, and welcome today. So I wanted to talk about the abortion ban, and I wanted to talk about Alyssa Milano. First, I want to talk about Alyssa Milano. Sorry, she is such an Alyssa. She is. I just feel like that's such an Alyssa thing to do, to try and start an abortion ban. I don't know. I know a few Alyssas, and that's just, I don't know. You know how somebody's name can kind of be very telling to who they are as a person and stuff, and I just feel like, if it wasn't that Alyssa that started that started a sex ban because of abortion in Alabama, then I think it was going to be another Alyssa. But that's just me. I think, look, I mean, the abortion ban in Alabama is horrible. I mean, it really is. I mean, the idea of an 11-year-old girl being raped and being forced to carry her baby to term sounds horrible. And an 11-year-old girl being raped and having to have an abortion also sounds terrible. Those sound just like impossible, horrible situations, and that just have no place in society, and it has no place in this world. And God, the thing is that I would never judge a woman for having an abortion. I know why women have abortions. When I was, I think, 23, I had a very serious pregnancy scare. A condom broke, and I was waiting for my period, and it was so nerve-wracking. It was so freaky. I was just like, holy shit, I'm going to have to move back in with my mother. I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to give up everything to stop. I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing and give up everything to raise Juan Paul's baby. And, while he's, off being Juan Paul, and he's a lot of fun, he was a lot of fun, but he was not a father. And it was just, I really just can't imagine what it would be like having to make that choice, and or being put in a position where you have to make that choice. I couldn't imagine, honestly. I mean, I guess I could. I mean, in that situation, I definitely could. I know why women have abortions. And I would never think less of a woman for having an abortion, and I would never judge a woman for having an abortion. I don't like the argument that it's just a cluster of cells. I don't think you're winning any points. I don't think you're winning anybody over by saying stuff like that. That's just sort of insensitive to the situation, because I've seen those photos of aborted babies, and that's a person. It is. It looks like a person to me. And it looks violent, and it looks like a horror movie. And you can't blame people for being freaked out by that. You can't blame people for that. If you've seen those photos, it looks like a baby. It looks like a bloody, mangled baby. And so you can't blame people for being sensitive about it, or for being uncomfortable with it. And but at the same time, the world is a cold, dark place. It is. And shit happens. 11-year-old girls get raped and get pregnant. And, and there's, the Busy Phillips came forward, and she talked about her abortion when she was 15. And I think that was great. I thought that was really strong of her. I thought that was very brave of her. I thought, even in today's society and stuff, I think the stigma of abortion is still very prevalent. And for a woman like Busy Phillips to come forward and just talk about it, I thought was really, actually, legitimately brave. And she was coming from a place of, her intention was to help women, and her intention was to be a voice for women in this situation. And I thought that was really brave. And now she's started a campaign where it's #youknowme, where it's to bring awareness to abortion, and and to how common it is by having women step forward and saying, you know me, and I've had an abortion. And that makes me really nervous because a lot of women, women have abortions for all different kinds of reasons. My sister attended a Christian college where if you attended this college and you were a woman and you were pregnant out of wedlock, you would not be allowed back to school. So you would lose whatever scholarships, whatever opportunities you had at that school. They would not support you if you were pregnant and not married. And so women, these girls, these good little Christian girls who, were trying to practice abstinence, and messed up because abstinence is, kind of miserable. I honestly, I don't want to judge women for being abstinent. I don't want to put that out there, that women who choose to be abstinent or choose to go about sex in a more conservative way are bad. I don't want to put that out there at all. And I think that's great for them. If that's what works for them and that's what's important to them, then I think that that's great. And women like that should not be shamed or, reverse slut shaming is such a thing where women who aren't, fucking Samantha Jones from Sex and the City are therefore somehow not as liberated as other women, and I've seen that a lot, and I've seen that attitude towards women a lot, and, and since I've been abstinent, and by the way, I've been having a sex strike for the last year, Alyssa Milano, so you know what? I've been protesting the abortion ban in Alabama since before it even happened. I didn't even know it was a problem when I didn't even know it was going to be a problem when I started, my sex protests. But that's what, I'm just going to make it about that. I'm abstinent because there's no abortions in Alabama. And that's just what I'm going to tell people from now on. If a guy, it's a great excuse, you know what I mean? If any guy, one thing, I've been talking about this and I've been struggling with this. It's happened a few times since I've started doing the podcast. I've been getting DMs from men who want to get to know me better or who want to get to know me because of my podcast and because of my vlogs. And which is, seems great. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm reaching people. And people are seeing this, and people want to talk to me about my message, and and I really like doing this podcast, and I and sex and sexual assault and abuse is a huge aspect of this podcast. It's probably the most prevalent theme of this podcast, and I talk about society, issues happening in society. I talk about issues happening in the media, and I talk about myself. And I talk about my friends, and I talk about my family, and I'm really open about what I'm going through. And I want to be, and I want to have that freedom, and I want to have that liberation to talk freely about what I'm going through. And I've been getting these DMs. I've had I think 4 or 5 since the podcast started, which might not seem like a lot, but it's just these men want to talk to me, and for the reason that they want to talk to me isn't because they want to talk about like, oh, well, what do you think about the abortion ban in Alabama, Caroline? Oh, how do you feel about Jussie Smollett's his situation? They're not asking me stuff like that. It's weird to me because these guys really just want to talk to me about it never leads to them wanting to donate money to the podcast, to help support it and to help fund it, because it's just like, oh, well, if they're messaging me, that means they must be a fan of the podcast and must want to support it so they can donate money. And they never want to give me money for it. And so, which, by the way, I think like that's how you get rid of guys. That's how you get rid of those nuisance guys in your DMs. Just ask them for money. They'll be like that. They're gone. They don't want to give you money. They don't want to do anything for you. And anyways, I don't know how to feel about that, because it's just weird. And I thought about, okay, this is actually really, I found this funny. I mean, it's not funny. It's actually really upsetting, but so Natalie Portman spoke at the Women's March, the last Women's March. And she was talking about how when she first starred in The Professional, and how she was 11 years old in that movie, and she's beautiful. She was like a beautiful little girl, you know. And so she starred in this movie where she played like a femme fatale type, but she was a little girl. And you know, and I think a lot of people are using The Professional and you know, in depictions of young girls, like Natalie Portman was depicted in The Professional, or how Brooke Shields was portrayed in Pretty Baby and that sort of thing, as examples of, like, you know, inherent pedophilia happening in the industry and stuff. And, you know, and sometimes, like, the more and more, I mean, I really like The Professional. It's a very good movie, but, you know, rewatching it, like, she was definitely sexualized. That little girl was sexualized. And they portrayed her in a way that was, that little girls shouldn't be portrayed. Little girls shouldn't be gorgeous sex pots. That's not what little girls should be. And I don't know. I mean, I hope times change where, you know, children are depicted in a healthier way. And you know, it happens a lot in movies. It happens a lot where they portray little girls, really young girls, as sexualized, and it's very strange. And, but anyways, Natalie Portman, she had this great Me Too story when she was a little girl. Oh God. It was, okay, so this is what happened. She got her first fan mail. And so she had just started in The Professional, and she got a letter from a fan. And then her parents, like, you got your first fan letter, Natalie. And she was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, you know. And so she opened the letter and she read it. And it was a rape fantasy that a grown man authored and sent it to her to read. He sent a little girl a rape fantasy fiction that he wrote of him and her. And he sent it to an 11-year-old girl to read. And it's just like, I don't think you get it. Like, I don't think you understand. Like, it's just weird. You know what I mean? It's just fucking weird. Like, why do you find little girls attractive? You know, like, why do you find, like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, take away just, like, I just don't understand that. And I just don't understand why guys are coming into my DMs when that's really not the intention of this podcast. And if you're watching this and you're sexually attracted to me, and which you shouldn't be. Like, you shouldn't be attracted to this. That's not what this is. But it's just been weird getting these messages, and I'm haven't really been able to flesh anything out of the conversations that I've had with these men, you know, because I've texted them, and, you know, and I've tried to get them, like, would you support the podcast since you're a fan, and since you're, you know, such a big fan that you're, you know, going out of your way to messaging the host of the podcast, you know, would you want to support the podcast? You know, I mean, if you're gonna, you know, invade my space like you are, then maybe support the podcast, you know? And maybe that's entitled. I don't think it is. I mean, you should always ask. And anyways, and so they disappear like that, and that's it. And so anyways, going back to Alyssa Milano, you know, I have to say about the sex strike, where I work, men go in there who are lonely, who are sex deprived, who you know, they work all the time, they're, you know, they're unhappy in their marriage, they're unhappy in their relationship, and they come to the club, you know, desperate and sad, and, you know, and it's just, and they have money, you know what I mean, they have so much money, And they just need to make themselves feel better, and they'll spend obscene amounts of money to make themselves feel better because shit at home isn't going that great. And so, as a feminist, I cannot say I can support a sex strike. But as a stripper, I fully support a sex strike. I think a sex strike is a great idea. And I think that I think it'll really help sex workers of all kinds to help us, in funding our lifestyles. And I think so. Yeah, I mean, have a sex strike. I mean, if your man has money and power, then have a sex strike. You could probably get something done. If your guy's broke, there's probably not much he can do for women, But I just that's how I feel about it. I think Alyssa Milano is a delight. I always look for, because it's just like she just pops out of nowhere whenever something like this happens and makes it all about her. And you just have to appreciate people for what they are, and that's just sort of what she is and what she serves to be. And she's just entertaining, and she always kind of messes up. She's not really appreciated by the movement the way I think she thinks she is. But I think what she can do instead of, making things about her is, why doesn't she start a charity? I think Alyssa Milano would really be great to start a charity or to start some sort of foundation for women. And I think that would be a lot more effective, and I think that would be a lot more helpful. And I think that would, I know I would appreciate more of those places existing for women. And so I think those sort of like a foundation, an organization, or a charity, that kind of thing is going to create more social change than a sex strike, or by putting yourself out there, starting a sex strike. I mean, I don't know. I can't imagine she would think that would actually work. It allegedly has at times, but at the same time, I just sort of feel that more in history, more went into stopping a war than a sex strike, So I don't think that sex strikes are that effective. And at least, it could definitely help me a lot. So from where I'm standing. But I don't think a sex strike is going to do anything for women. I don't think, and to be honest, like I think my job, like if anything, it has made me value sex so much more than I did when I was younger. And it's helped me, just really see, like, I mean, sex is really on a pedestal for me. What sex actually is, and what in its purest form, what that is. I've really put it on a pedestal. And it is such a valuable, healing, wonderful, beautiful thing that taking it out of the equation for people who have healthy relationships isn't going to help anybody. It's not going to stop sexual assaults from happening. And you're taking away something really good. You want to take away something really good and really positive from healthy couples, or people who want to express themselves sexually, and you're giving that power to who? You're giving, what is that going to do? How is that going to help anyone? Because all it's going to do is just send guys to me, and then I'm just going to rob them, and no one wins except me. So, I'm kidding, by the way. I want to speak freely and just know I'm joking. And, anyways, and then so also the abortion thing, don't pressure women into being open about their abortions. Because honestly, you might hear a lot of stuff about abortion that you don't want to hear right now. Tons of women have had horrible, horrible experiences having an abortion. Women have postpartum depression. There have been instances of infertility issues. There have been, I mean, women walking by playgrounds, 5 years after their abortion, 10 years after the abortion, and breaking down crying. I mean, those situations are very real too. And those women who have had an abortion are very real too. I don't think you really want to hear from those women. I think that you want to hear from women who have had positive experiences with abortions. I mean, as positive as it can possibly be. But I think that if you really bring forward all of these women who have had an abortions, you're going to see more women having a hard time with it than you are with women who've kind of been able to heal themselves from it afterwards. And because the fact is, with my pregnancy scare and my having to face that choice, or almost having to face that choice, there are always going to be those photos of those mangled, bloody fetuses that upset people. And those are out there, and they're very upsetting. And this isn't, I don't know, like, there's just this idea that the only people who don't like abortion are men, when in reality a lot of women don't like abortion either. And so, I mean, I think that if you're going to start a hashtag movement trying to push women forward to come out and say they've had an abortion, what about Christian women? What about Muslim women? What about Jewish women who have had to have an abortion? What would that do to them in their communities? What about, women who have families and have children and, don't want to have that conversation with their kids? Like, before I had to have an abortion. Like, what if a woman who's married, who doesn't want her husband to know that she's had an abortion, what about her? You know what I mean? Some people just want to move on and forget about it and never talk about it again. It never happened. That is a totally fine response to abortion, in my opinion. And I completely understand where a woman would be coming from in having that attitude towards her abortion. If she just wants to move on, never talk about it again, never think about it again, it never happened, a woman has a right to live that way. And a hashtag youknowme is putting pressure on women who just don't deserve that kind of pressure. Like, let me live my life. I don't want to have to come forward and say I've had an abortion because I don't even want to think about it. You have to think about those women too. So if you're going to start a hashtag not youknowme, you're going to get to know a lot of women who have had a lot of shitty experiences with abortions, because abortion is fucking shitty. It is. It's fucking shitty. It is. It's just the shittiest fucking thing I can think of sometimes. It's the shittiest fucking situation I can think of. Anyways, that was my vlog today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a lovely afternoon and a lovely day. And I will see you back next time, I hope. Have a lovely day. Bye.